All right, let's soldier on. We'll start our meeting. Hopefully my co-leader will join us here shortly. And if not, we'll figure out some other way to award gift cards. All right, so thanks for joining us today, everyone. We have two items on the agenda. A retrospective for the Atlassian Connect series of events that were held across the globe. There were two here in the US, there were two in Europe, and I believe they have plans to hit other cities later in the year after Team 25 is behind us. And that's going to be a panel discussion. And then we'll have a presentation on the forthcoming, or maybe they're available now and I'm not aware of it yet, JSM Playbooks. And what happened to the advance the slide button? Sorry, guys. We've had some changes in our underlying platform, and it's creating a little bit of confusion for us this morning. All right. Okay, now I know how to do it. I have to actually change browser windows. All right, so I'm Dave Rosenlund. I'm an Atlassian community leader. I've been one for coming up on 4 years. And I started out as an online community leader. I'm still an online community leader, but now my online community is scoped down, if you will, to this group that we call ITSM-ESM Masters. And that's where I spend most of my spare time when I'm not doing my day job. As I mentioned a moment ago, we've got two agenda items. I'm not going to introduce the whole panel now because we'll introduce the panel in a minute. And we have Makaran from Atlassian, who's going to talk to us about the new JSM playbooks. And then at the end, if Jovan joins us at some point, we'll have our quiz and raffle giveaway. Got to change screens again. Sorry. Feeling a little flustered today. All right, Atlassian Team 25. If anyone on this call, I'd be surprised if anyone on this call doesn't know about Team 25. It's Atlassian's annual user conference, customer conference. It's the biggest Atlassian event by far of the year. There's last year, and I believe this year, there will be a second one, Team 25 Europe, later in the year, in the fall. But the one in the spring is in Anaheim, California this year, April 8th to 10th. And if you haven't signed up and you think you might like to go and you decide you'd like to go, you can use this, jot down this discount code that will get you a 20% discount off of the price of admission for the event. And by the way, this group, which is a virtual group, all of our meetings are online typically, but this group is going to have a breakfast meeting on April 9th. You can learn more about that on our on the page that you use to register for this event. So if you're going to be in town and if you'd like to get together in person with your peers from the JSM ecosystem, by all means, sign up for it. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now because it's time for us to start our panel discussion. So there's no slide for the panel discussion. The panel discussion is just us and our panelists. And I have two of them here with me now. We're missing two, which is weird. We should have had two other panelists here. One is my co-leader, Jovan, who attended the event in London. And then I also had someone from the Chicago event, invited them to be a panelist as well, and I don't see them here as well. So something must have happened in both their lives that prevented them from being here this morning. And we can just proceed with what we have. All right, so the first part of the agenda is to discuss the event. Myron, actually, did you attend any of the events, Connect events?
I did. I spoke at the London event.
Okay, great. So you can be an additional panelist for us today. Awesome.
Yeah, happy to be one. Yeah.
Dave, I think Al is mentioning in the chat that he's on the call. I don't know if he was supposed to.
Oh, thank you. I did not see that. I'm looking for him on the attendee list here. Come on. Huh. All right, I'll keep looking. Let me ask the first question, and then I'll try to get Al into the attendee list here. I'm not seeing him somehow. All right, anyway, let me do that after I ask the first question. So the first question actually is to the entire panel. Could each of you just please, give us a brief introduction of yourself and say a bit about what your role was at the events that were at the Atlassian Connect event? Why don't you go first, Aditya?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dave. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to meet all of you. My name is Aditya Mani. I am a product manager with JSM Atlassian, and specifically, I am part of the IT ops side of things, where we look at incidents, changes, alerts, and a bunch of other things around operation. Um, I was fortunate enough to attend the high velocity events in New York and Chicago, and I spoke about our new AI Ops features that we have launched in JSM. AI Ops is everything to do with how are we blending the new AI technologies with our IT Ops functionalities. So yeah, that's about me. I am going to be a bit mindful of time, and we pass it over to Richard.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So my name is Richard Crampton. I'm based out of the sunny south coast of UK, so apologies if you see some glare appearing on the side of my face. It's the sun trying to blind me. I've been at Atlassian since June of last year, and my role is a senior IT service management solution engineer. Prior to that, I actually have got almost a decade of experience in the partner ecosystem, the last 8 years of which were focused on service management using ITSM tools. So both Jira Service Management and its predecessor, for those who remember it, Jira Service Desk. And I had the great pleasure of presenting in both London and Munich on service management for, AI for service management teams.
Great. Pick the next person.
I assume, Rich, you mentioned me.
Sorry, I didn't come to. I said I'll pass the mic around. I'll try again.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Rich. So hey, everyone. Nice to meet you. I am a product manager at Atlassian as well, working on JSM team. I primarily focus on use cases around IT operations, ITSM, like the service side of things as well, and also on the ESM space. In the area of automation primarily, like how automation can improve, and solve use cases in JSM, right? And also, I had a pleasure of presenting at the London High Velocity event, where I talked about how dev and ops teams could be unified and work better with the tool set and capabilities that we are offering as part of the JSM solution and product. So excited to be here as a panelist, and nice to meet you all. I'll pass it on to
Al.
Al.
Which looks like AI wrote us. Every time I see your name now, Al, I think AI wrote us.
I get that a lot, actually. All right, can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
All right, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Al Rodas. I work for a company called OpenGov and the IT Systems Engineering Department, Jira admin, analyst, and helping folks across the enterprise using Jira software, Jira Service Management, Confluence, etc. I was participating in the event in Chicago. I had the pleasure of being a panelist on the Fireside Chat to talk about my experience and journey with JSM and Atlassian tools through the years. And and I'm happy to be here with you all today.
Great. Thank you, everyone. All right. So the panel knows this, but I'm going to tell the audience as well. I'm going to start with a couple of questions. I already asked the first one by asking everyone to introduce themselves. And then I have one more question to get things kicked off. Then the panelists will also participate by asking each other questions. We're going to do this kind of round robin style. And assuming we don't run out of time, and if we do, I'll ask less questions. We'll all ask less questions, but we're going to save time at the end for Q&A, about 5 minutes worth of Q&A. So if a question occurs to you, or you already have one, you can drop it in the chat feature here in our platform. And we'll do the best we can to answer as many questions as we can in 5 minutes. Any question that we can't answer, I'll have a log of the questions from the event that I can use to follow up with people directly. And also in the post-event, one of the post-event emails that goes out, I'm going to include a link to a survey where you can also ask questions that you didn't get addressed or answered here in the panel. So without further ado, let's get started. Here's my first real question, and this is for Aditya, the three Atlassians on the call. What were the top 3 things Atlassian wanted people to take away from this event, in your opinion? So actually, because of time, let's limit it to 2 things. What were the top 2 things that you feel Atlassian was hoping the attendees would take away from the event? And let's start with Richard this time.
Perfect. So for me, and the folks on my talk, the thing I really wanted to get people engaged with was the potential for AI and automation working together to alleviate what we define as toil, right? So freeing up people's time to focus on more value-add activities by automating processes and maybe starting that with a better end user experience. And I think it was really insightful. We had so many conversations with customers on the back of that, where they could suddenly start to think of stuff as, oh yeah, I hate doing that task. How can we help automate some of that using AI, and what that would mean for them in terms of how they could spend their time?
Okay. How about for you, Aditya? What in your view, what was the number 1 or 2 takeaways that Atlassian wanted people to take away?
Yeah, I think the flavor of the season in almost every event that I attend is definitely AI. And I think my top 2 takeaways, sorry, I'm slightly under the weather, so my throat might be a bit
No worries.
But I think the 2 top takeaways are like on 2 ends of the of the AI coin. One is, what is Atlassian doing new with AI? What is Jira doing new with AI? What's Confluence doing new with AI? What's JSM doing new with AI? And how do I implement those? How do I maybe be the champion for these AI practices in my organization? And on the other side of the coin, we also got a lot of questions like, so even if we do implement AI, how do we now implement governance protocols? Like, how do we ensure that our data doesn't get leaked out? How do we ensure that our data stays within the realm of our systems, and that it doesn't get used for maybe training models that might be used for building features for some other customer? Right. So I think there were a lot of interesting questions around that as well. So yeah, those are probably my 2 big takeaways from these events.
All right. And Michael Rand, what was your view on that same question?
I think so, on very similar lines on what Aditya said. I think basically we wanted every participant to essentially be comfortable with the capabilities and get their answers out of the nitty-gritties on how those capabilities are built, what's the backend engine, how's the data being used, specifically when talking about AI, right? I mean, there's a lot of questions around that. And the other thing is basically on the implementation side. That's why during the high velocity events, we ensured having workshops, like live demos as well, where we try to give some live use cases and instances where some of our past customers have tried to implement solutions, taking some examples and learnings from them and sharing it out to the wider group on how they can potentially leverage some of the new things that we've introduced in the Atlassian suite. So I think those were the big wins from the events for me. Yeah.
Great. And so I'm going to answer this question myself as well, but first I'm going to ask Al too. So do you think Atlassian communicated those things well? Was that one of your key takeaways?
Yes, absolutely. In hearing the common theme that's running through here is, how AI can be leveraged within the ecosystem to, make everything better, more efficient, easier, tied together, etc. Here at OpenGov, we're an AI first company. So when I saw Aditya's presentation about AI ops, it completely blew me away. It gave me a different framework of how to think about how the pieces connect. And it was actually good timing too, because we're in the process now and have been of introducing major incident process. And that's still very top of mind for us right now. And also, the Ops Genie to Jira Ops migration is something that we're in the planning stages of right now. So how all these changes will fit together and having AI layer over all of that is something very exciting for me and for us. And I think it benefit the company greatly. So I'm very excited about that. And Aditya, I definitely want to get with you and Bimal to talk about AI ops in further detail. So I'll respond back on that thread so we can talk further. But yes, absolutely very exciting. And that's the piece I took from it, from what you folks were saying. So.
maybe that becomes a topic, Al, for a future meeting of this group. My own perspective, I attended both the London and Chicago. I'm sorry, not London. I attended the New York and Chicago events, and the reason I did that was in my day job. Part of my responsibility is to deeply understand customer use cases. I work for an Atlassian partner that is both a services and a marketplace app developer partner of Atlassian's. And so I'm constantly looking for things that will inform our product roadmap. So I agree with what Al just said. I think Atlassian did a great job of getting people excited and interested in AI and all of the possibilities there. But I know what I left, I was a little bit hungry when I left that. And I said this to someone else from Atlassian after the event. I said, yeah, there was a lot of wow today, but we didn't get a lot of how. And so I think I'm going to help solve that problem in this community, in this ACE chapter, by bringing some Atlassians and users in future meetings to talk about how they're using AI and how they did it. And I think we can expect to see other things from Atlassian as well, coming from Atlassian, learning tools, et cetera. But let's get from the wow to the how, and because I'm excited. I got the wow, now I need the how. All right, I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to ask the panelists to throw in some of their questions. And I'm going to ask this of you, Al. You're an Atlassian customer. You were actually one of the showcase customers there at the event in Chicago. You were on the stage with Atlassian as talking in a fireside chat similar to this one. So question to you is, what sorts of concerns and challenges do you see within your company or within your organization relative to implementation of AI in general and AI specifically with JSM?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll speak to one of the same things I spoke to during that fireside chat was the, how can I put this? The quality of the information that AI is reaching into, meaning linked Confluence spaces. Okay. So we have Confluence spaces. We've gone through a big project to archive, Confluence spaces and Jira projects that weren't in use any longer. But what we still do have isn't always up to date. So, these AI tools are great. I think this is a challenge that every company that I've been with, and even serving as an Atlassian partner for 5 years, looking at different companies from that standpoint, is the grooming of information by which the AI is going to be informed. So that is as big a challenge as the implementation piece. Okay, so we do have to think about, not lose sight of the information that is being returned by what AI is bringing us, right? So I'm kind of curious from the Atlassian standpoint, in talking to your customers and use cases, how have folks gone and made it a priority to groom the data that's being culled from AI? Because I can certainly use some ideas as well, and I was just curious on how folks have been doing that, and if that's a common challenge that is being faced by other folks out in the world, right?
Go ahead, Richard. You raised your hand first.
Yeah, it was a very interesting one. I've had that. The first thing I noticed is I gave the same presentation as my colleague Michael Santos in US, and we've got different terms for it depending on which side of the pond you're in. So in the UK, we often say rubbish in, rubbish out, and you think it's garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Or some of the more colourful variants, we've probably all heard of it. I think I date this back to something I heard years ago, which still means to me, is like, Confluence is like a garden, right? You've got to dig out the weeds. You've got to maintain it. And, AI is as good as the data that you feed into it. So I had some really interesting conversations with customers around their methodologies for dealing with that, whether it's actually setting ownership on certain knowledge management capabilities. When was the article last refreshed? Do we have a cadence cycle for reviewing it? But also, we are also bringing in AI capabilities that can see how effective those knowledge articles are over time, even making suggestions for gaps where it's not being addressed. So I think AI is also part of the solution while being part of the problem, which is interesting. So I think there's a combination of AI for help pointing out where you may need to work, but also having a governance structure and a methodology for saying, the data we provide here is more and more important over time, what governance do we have over that? What ownership do we have over that? And how do we have a process, maybe storing data in assets for that, to constantly refresh that and make sure that's signed off as accurate?
Yeah, in the course of my working in the Atlassian ecosystem, and prior to that, I was a user/customer. I hear that over and over again about Confluence, and I love your garden analogy. That's an excellent analogy. Why don't you ask a question, Rich?
Okay, so I'll pass this on to any of the other colleagues on the call, but I think it's one of two questions. Either the most interesting or the most significant thing you heard when having conversations with customers following your talks?
Who wants to go first?
I think I can go first. So I think, all right. So just maybe taking a couple of steps back and maybe taking a more philosophical approach to AI. So I did deliver the AI Ops talk, and the entire point of AI Ops at the end of the day is to try and reduce what we call the MTTR, or the mean time to resolution, right? Because an alert happens, an incident happens, you either want to prevent it preemptively, or you want it to disappear and get fixed instantly, right? But obviously for practical reasons, that sometimes stretches to maybe hours or sometimes days or weeks. What AIOps tries to do is it tries to bring together a lot of information in a more relevant fashion and give to the incident responder in the nick of time. And that is how I had structured my entire discussion as well. So it was very interesting discussion right after that meeting, where I was also right after the talk, where I was having lunch with one of the attendees, and she was an incident responder in a hospital, I think in New York.
Wow.
She gave me a very interesting story where she said that I totally related to everything that you said, because when you are in the fire of trying to solve an incident, trying to bring your MTTR down as soon as possible, you can't focus on anything else but just that incident. And a similar instance had happened with her, and she was also coincidentally admitted to the hospital at the same time as a patient. So she, even though she was admitted as the patient, she took it upon herself. She was so passionate about doing her job that while she was on the hospital bed, she solved the incident for the hospital and then underwent the treatment that she had to do. And uh, that does speak a lot about the passion that some of the firefighters and the responders have in the incident management and the ITSM space. And I was massively inspired by that story.
That's a great story. That's a great story. I don't think I've ever heard one quite that way. So 5-minute warning for us. We're going to take one more question from a panelist to a panelist, and then we're going to open it up to questions that people in the audience are going to want to ask us. And I would encourage everyone to drop your question in the chat window right now, and so I'll start reading them once we take this last question. I'm going to throw this out. It's very much related to the first question I asked at the beginning. So it's really for everyone, but at the same time, I would like the Atlassians in particular to tell us how they think Atlassian did in terms of communicating those goals. In the conversations you had with customers, or in the feedback that you got after the event, was there anything that people felt was missing from the event? So Richard, why don't you go first?
I think it's interesting also what you said, which is the wow, but not necessarily the how. I think there's always a challenge as well when we're trying to go for as wide an audience as possible, of actually, we've got to show it and align it to the value and get the people to the vision. And then there's a follow-on activity of showing how. So I also received that feedback from customers like, that's great, but we'd like to go to another level of depth. For me, that was actually the right signal, because that meant that we'd resonated and we got people thinking about how we could solve their problems. And we started to get people going like, how about this example? We've got this challenge. Could AI and, intents and automation help with that? But agree that maybe we should be clear that we're going to show you the wow, and this is how we're going to follow up with, show you the wow, and this is how we're going to follow up with the how. How do we go about doing that? What's the practical application of that?
Awesome. How about you, Aditya?
Yeah, I think plus one to what Richard said. There's always this like fine line that you have to straddle because your audience comes from a diverse background. Maybe some people know a lot about JSM and ITSM. Some people are like super new to the entire field. So, in an attempt to try and be more relatable to maximum number of the audience, we try to maybe focus more on the wow. But yes, we have received a lot of feedback around that, and I think in this high velocity events we did a decent job of trying to address that feedback. We had these hands-on assets workshop as well, which I believe at least in New York and Chicago, when where I attended, were super well attended. But yes, always open to more feedback and to see how we can do better. Maybe we can have more tailor-made sessions, more personalized sessions for some of the power users as well.
How about you, Mark Oren? Did you have? I'll want you to speak too, Al. But Mark Oren, did you? How did you feel relative to the meeting the objectives of the event?
I think more or less in line with what has been discussed. So the good part was my session was in the afternoon, so I had a good pulse check on how the audience is, where they're coming from, what backgrounds is, and all of that conversation helped me tailor some of the insights during my talk in the afternoon. But of course, as Rich pointed out, right, the audience is wide and there are nuances, and from the audience I could hear that for the same use case and for the same capability, there were like slight differences on, I'm setting this up like this, will it work in my scenario or not, and so on and so forth, right? So I think we did a good job in communicating the value, but yeah, I think it takes time and understanding of the granular scenarios where each customer is facing those challenges to actually implement it in their practices. So yeah, I think that's the same for me.
Great. Al, what did you want to say on this topic?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on everything the three folks said here, and from my customer perspective, and I probably speak for others as well, that each company or enterprise is going to be at different levels of adoption with their JSM and Jira software instances,
Really
and integrations between the two, right? So I can speak for us that we're finally in place with a Jira steering committee. With folks represented around different departments to be able to right size our instance from the tech debt that's been built over the years. So this is a good opportunity for us to address these items that have been these legacy, I'll call it problems for standardization and the like, right size all that and work in the AI components that we're talking about here. So again, that's where we're at right now. And I think, having the understanding of where you as a company are at with the ability to implement it based on where your adoption and traction is absolutely something to take into consideration. So major incidents for us is a big thing. And that's why when I saw the AI ops presentation, it really did change my perspective and broaden it to see what the art of possible is. So just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Yeah. And I'll add a quick comment here because we're not getting a lot of questions in the chat. In fact, come on, guys, give us some questions. But I think Atlassian did meet its objectives under the constraints of what this event was. As the other folks have already pointed out, you never know, you cast a net and you never know what kind of fish you're going to catch. So you might get, highly technical people that are hungry for really technical, the how-to stuff that I was mentioning earlier. You get business people who are there just trying to decide, whether or not should I even implement AI right now? Is this a good time to do that? And then you've got people who are just new to Atlassian and the Jira platform. And so they have a whole different perspective. So I say kudos to Atlassian for trying to strike the right balance. And I would add that if you don't know this already, and I know many of the people on this call do, there's Atlassian University and the Atlassian community, where I think that's where we're going to be the source of more of the how-to type things. As Liz pointed out, I think it was Liz. Yeah, as Liz pointed out, you need to have, tracks for non-technical people, tracks for technical people, tracks for, administrators. You need to, and users, of course, you need to have tracks for all of those folks. And I think Atlassian does a pretty good job. I know I always feel like, well, they're missing this and they're missing that. But then I remind myself, but look at all of the other great stuff that exists. So they'll hopefully get to the things. And if you feel something's missing, you can speak up. And the last point, again, I mentioned the Atlassian community. I think this chapter in particular is specifically designed to A, be a global chapter, not limited to a particular city, and B, be dedicated to ITSM and ESM with the Jira platform. So I think this community is another great source. And one last plug for the Atlassian community, they also have community leader-led courses now. So in addition to Atlassian University, you have people in the Atlassian ecosystem that find the spare time somehow in their work day to create course material for people that are studying for Atlassian courses, or it might be just a course topic that they're interested in, and they've decided to offer free training. So a lot of stuff is free. All of the online stuff from Atlassian is free. The community stuff is free, and there are some certifications that cost money, but take advantage of that free learning that's available from Atlassian when you do have questions in this or any other topic area. All right, let's see. We're going to talk about playbooks in just a second here, Stuart. So I'm sure Mark Arand will answer that question. And I think I just answered your question, Dana, with my commentary about the using the community in Atlassian University. And then Liz spoke up after my comments and said the exam fees for the certification stuff are very reasonable, and I agree with her completely. So panelists, thank you. We're going to move into the second agenda item today, which is the introduction of Atlassian Playbooks for Jira Service Management. Those haven't existed until now or very soon. Mark Arand will clarify that for us. And Mark Arand, you should be able to share your screen now because I've stopped sharing.
Amazing. Thanks, Dave. Let me quickly bring up my screen. Okay. Just a second. Some issue.
Murphy's Law, right?
For some reason, my Chrome is not allowing me to share.
Well, what if you, I'm sure you know the contents of your presentation. Why don't you kind of walk us through it verbally so that we don't stress you out trying to figure out the problem here, and we can move on with the agenda.
Sure.
So
So
really close.
yeah, just trying to enter. No, it's not working. Okay. Should I try joining from another?
No, at this point, I think just go ahead and do the best you can with a verbal overview of what they are and when they're coming, and again, we'll see if people have questions from the audience.
Cool. Amazing. So yeah, playbooks as an entity basically is a collection of stepwise guides. What that means is whenever you get a JSM issue, right? So let's take an example scenario. Imagine an engineer who has recently joined an organization and is put on call, right? So whenever an incident is created, for example, right, and he or she would be going through the on-call responsibilities, which is basically, acknowledging that incident, checking out the details, performing some RCA by looking at some of the Confluence documentation maybe, or going onto certain systems or tools where he or she is trying to find the data and doing some analysis around it. Then once he or she realizes that a potential issue, goes to the relevant team, asks certain people around about it, and then tries to find out what could be the potential resolution process around it, then comes back again, goes to some other documentation where there might be certain scripts, right? or maybe some systems where you would want to trigger some actions, right? And all of that happens, and then the data is passed between a lot of systems, a lot of people are interacting, and with all of this happening, and finally the incident gets closed. So this has a lot of tool sprawl, a lot of context sprawl, information sprawl, and people sprawl, if I may put it simply that way. So what Playbooks is essentially trying to do is trying to bridge this gap of what information and what tools is needed for this agent to be able to address a specific issue. So as businesses term it, standard operating procedures. So this Playbooks aim to kind of implement standard operating procedures within JSM for agents to have a rich context and guidance whenever they're trying to address this issue, trying to simplify the manual work so that they have all the required tools at hand's distance, where they can just trigger certain actions by a click of a button, and then streamline these processes with the ability to have an audit trail and traceability. So any stakeholder who is part of this process, let's say incident management, is able to track what has happened, when it was happened, by whom, and how this will impact, right? So Playbooks as an entity is a collection of steps which could be instructional or could be automated. So once you go and try to set up a playbook, you would have an option to add a step, which basically in that step you can specify whether it is an instruction or an automation. If it's an instruction, you can essentially tell that, okay, whenever this issue is created, try and do XYZ things, and maybe you can add a link to a specific page. So instead of agent having to find that right link, it is right away available as the part of that step itself, right? So for example, one of the things that I was going to show in the demo, I wish I could, was, let's say an Azure service is down in case of a prediction, right? So let's say there's a prediction service on which the AI engine is working, right? And now that is not working fine for a company. So essentially a ticket is created. So the first step is to find which of your Azure instances are, what are those, let's say, VM IDs or service IDs on Azure which are hosting the services, right? So it might be presented in a tabular form on a Confluence, or maybe you can get it via call, via an API call, right? So the first step could be right there to just get that, which could be a Confluence page. So let's say the agent comes to this issue, clicks on this playbook to resolve this Azure service down issue, and then clicks on the first step, finds that, okay, here is right, the Confluence page is right there, where I'm able to open and find out the right ID. Then I use that ID and go to the next step. So in this case, what I have as the next step is an automation rule, which is going to run a runbook on that Azure service, for example. So the moment I have taken that ID from my step 1, I can use that and pass it on my step 2 as the instance where some action needs to be performed, and then I on a click of a run button, I am able to do that. And once that step is completed, the playbook is able to generate a successful message as well as an output from which could be a response coming from that service, that this script has executed successfully, this is the response, and this is the, let's say, some identifiers that you would want, or some data that you would want to take forward in the next step, right? And based on that information, you can take further steps. Let's say if it was successful, all good, you don't have to go on next steps. If it was not successful, then you might have some other mitigation steps that reach out to a dev team where you have ABC, so you can directly create or send a Slack message via a click of a button, or even have an issue which is logged on to a dev team in Jira software, where they might also get informed about some changes that has happened and some scripts that you have executed on a given service, so that they can take a look at it itself. So all in all, as a part of this incident resolution, what has happened is, for a business, they have been able to streamline all of these steps which the agent was supposed to run. And as part of the playbooks, the agent would be able to now follow those guidance, and instead of having to copy paste from, let's say, a Confluence doc, okay, I might have a line of code on the Confluence which I have to paste on some other service. It is all done beautifully by the automation rules themselves, and on click of button they can directly go. So you are also kind of getting the benefits of not having to expose, let's say, permissions on some sensitive systems. Here the L1 support or initial on-call responder doesn't need to really have permissions on other systems, while they can only do the restricted actions which are definitely needed in case of incident management. So you can restrict the amount of actions they can take as part of your configuration of these automation rules and playbooks, as well as ensure the right things are happening whenever needed, in time. And secondly, since this is all tracked as part of the issue context, all of these executions will be captured as part of the history and audit log, and you can definitely check. So imagine a scenario that L1 support gets this ticket, they do some mitigation and try to identify some cause, but then they realize this is something that an escalation manager needs to take a look at. So they do an escalation, and then the escalation manager doesn't need to actually ask anyone about what has happened or even have to read anything. It's directly there on the issue view itself, where the audit of execution logs would directly tell that admin or the escalation manager that these are the steps which have already been taken by this first line of support, and then he or she can directly look at the outputs which were generated and then directly take it from there. So this saves time in passing on context between the incident or the issue at hand, right? And then also having an audit trail of what has happened. So even after, let's say, long time, if it required, people and stakeholders can look at this and improve on their processes, on which steps are taking more time, what steps should be improved for the resolution to happen faster, and hence improve their MTTRs, right? And finally, I think with automation having the power of AI, you can actually implement a lot of use cases as well as part of these automation. So as Rich, Aditya, and all of us, we have been discussing in last half an hour. So let's say in an automation world, you are trying to use an, let's say, ops guide agent inside this automation rule, where it asks you that give me an RCA of this incident ticket. So on click of a button, you can generate an RCA, and then you can also ask other prompts, other relevant questions to this AI, and all of that output will be visible in the context of that playbook as well. And then you can, based on that output which is generated, you can take decisions on what are the right set of actions, and all of that is now streamlined and comprised in this one set of capability called playbooks. Now, at high level, this is what it is, and what I want to highlight is this is using automation experiences and capabilities directly. So anyone who's comfortable with using automation can directly go and create automation rules, and then while setting up the playbook, you can find it right below automation in the navigation inside project settings. So essentially, any project admin who wants to set up playbooks can just navigate to that place, click on create playbook, and then add your automation rules step by step as you would want to, with the support of adding, let's say, descriptions and instructions to the agent that when exactly do they need to run this rule, right? And how do they parse this output, and so on and so forth, right? This is available for JSM Premium and Enterprise as of now. And on the question that is asked on the chat, I would like to address that as well. So currently it is in the rollout phase. This week we started the rollout. It's not 100% GA yet. It will happen over the course of next week as part of the slow rollout process. But we have done an EAP with several set of customers. We have gotten some good feedback, and we have implemented some of the immediate requirements. And having said that, it's currently in the rollout phase. We'll soon have some announcements on community, and our support articles are already updated with how to use playbooks. So you can definitely look at that. I'll take a pause now. Maybe if anybody has any questions specific to playbooks, and then maybe I can take a stab at answering that specific one.
There are a few questions in the chat, but I'd like to go first because I can. Will playbooks also be available eventually for standard edition, or is it only going to be a premium and enterprise?
Currently, there is no specific decision on that. We are starting with premium and enterprise. Based on use case and adoption, we'll definitely evaluate how this needs to land. And so I think it's basically open. We'll try to evaluate how the customers respond on premium and enterprise, and then we'll see how the value of it could be driven to standard. But currently, for at least foreseeable future, it should be in premium and enterprise.
Premium and enterprise for now. And then I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'll read the questions in the chat. Well, what is the intersection of AI and playbooks, if any? Is AI can AI be pointed to the playbooks as a source of data?
So playbooks can point to AI for sure now, which is through the capability of automation. So inside, when you create an automation rule, we have the support for robo agents to be embedded in it. And once you configure that right AI prompts and all of it, you can definitely trigger AI via playbooks. And the reverse of which is basically AI suggesting you the right playbook to use, is something as a use case that we are currently focusing on in the next couple of months.
Okay.
So both the cycle will be complete. So essentially you can trigger AI prompts from playbooks, and then eventually when you do, let's say, AI chat, you can also get instructions or suggestions on, these are the specific playbooks that you can use to resolve your issue, right?
Great. All right, let me read some of the questions from the audience. One question is, possibly I missed this, but can playbooks be restricted based on user roles or permissions?
Yes. So we essentially support filtering capability. So whenever you're creating playbooks, in the last stage where you're trying to save that playbook, it will give you an option to filter down on which issue type and request type this playbook needs to be embedded on. And secondly, also on the user roles. So you can actually restrict this playbook to be used only by, let's say, incident managers or certain specific AWS dev team or some service dev team, and so on and so forth, right? Depending on your use case, you can definitely do that.
The next question is, are playbooks JSM project specific, or do they work across projects? And I'll add a comment or question to that as well. Or is that configurable? Can I say it's available for all projects or only for certain projects? Can I have, or a hybrid even of company-wide and project-based?
So currently the playbooks are at project level. It's definitely available in all projects, but you, as a project admin, you will have to set up playbooks at each project if required. We are definitely working on the capability to scale it up for multiple projects, but there are some nuances and business understanding that we are kind of getting from customers around how that can be done. But to answer your question, currently it's at the project level. It's not at the multi-project level.
Okay. How about panelists? Do you have any questions about playbooks?
I just had one thought on this, because I still remember when we had what we called run books, right? And that was based on automation, the ability to go like, oh, you've got a major outage on your key service. Here's the process to follow, and you do all these steps. I really see this as kind of the evolution of that, and being able to go, okay, from these series of steps, here's what we can further automate, right? So here's the process to follow when everything's on fire and everyone's running around going, here's what I need to do, great. But also, how can we drive that and ever evolve that to say, oh, we'll run this script to go and get this data. Why do I need to go and do that? Let's automate those steps and return those outputs to make it, as easy as possible. And say that key thing of MTTR. How can we drive that down by further automating, reducing the toil? And personally, I'm really excited that I'm also really excited to see more and more customers' use cases and understand this is still very new, and so really appreciate also the questions coming in terms of questions, because it's really good to get feedback from the community.
Yeah, I think thanks, Rich. Just wanted to add one small bit there. I think runbooks as a name or as a concept has been very specific to dev and ops scenarios. So that's why I think this playbook, we named it intentionally playbooks, because we wanted this not to be perceived as an IT specific use case, as JSM can support ESM as scenarios as well, right? So be it an HR onboarding scenario, right? So let's say an HR is having a ticket to onboard a new employee, so they might have some operating procedures around how can I perform certain set of actions, right? And that could very well be automated using playbooks and AI and a combination of that. So I think just wanted to speak something on that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I love one of the comments I just saw in the chat. In crunch scaffolding, it's a dance for sure. and speaking of which, I did hear from my co-host or co-leader, Jovan. He's dealing with some major incidents at his company today, and he's busy doing PIRs. So he, unlike me, who works for an Atlassian partner, and I can carve out time in my schedule to be here no matter what, Jovan actually has, in his day job, he's an incident manager. So in fact, he's the head guy. So that's why he's not here today. Anyway.
Can I ask a question for you, Dave?
Yes, absolutely.
Is that PIR automated using AI?
I'll ask him after the fact. I don't think he's going to respond to me right now.
Maybe not. Maybe now is not a good time opinion, but I'm just interested because that's one of the things we see people absolutely loving right now.
Great question. All right, guys. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up here. We only have 7 minutes left anyway. And since Jovan is not here, he is our quiz master for ITSM-ESM Masters. He uses the same quiz platform that you may have seen elsewhere in the QuizWiz chapter of the Atlassian community. And it's a great tool for us to, kind of have a little fun and give away some money, give away some of my company's money since they're the sponsor of this chapter. So what I'm going to do instead today is I'm going to go to the attendee window. I'm going to just scroll my mouse and see where it stops. And I'll award 3 people a gift card. This time it's random luck, everyone. So here we go. Scroll. Anna Marie, I'm going to probably mispronounce your last name, Anna Marie Goyvaerts, Goyvaerts. I'm guessing she might be Dutch, but that's just a guess. So Anna Marie, I will, if I don't have your email address, I may not have your email address. As community leaders, we see a redacted email address when you sign up to join a chapter. We can communicate with you through the platform only in bulk email. We can't send individual emails to people. So Anna Marie, if you think there's any chance I may not have your email address, you can reach me through the Atlassian Community Leader page for our event. Let me actually share this screen with you because this will apply to everyone. Share screen. And so at this URL at the top of the page, ace.atlassian.com, ITSM-ESM Masters, there's a button on that page that says contact the team. So if you'd go to the website and use that contact the team feature, let me know what email address we would send you, send your Amazon gift card to. And let's do that again. Another random scroll. Okay, Roy Kasenchak. Roy Kasenchak, you were actually the first person to join our event this morning. So you get a gold star for joining first. And also you're going to get an Amazon gift card. So same instruction, please go to that URL. Make sure I have your email address. And one more. Okay, Chris Green, you are a winner of an Amazon gift card too. So Chris, I know Chris, he's a customer of mine. So Chris, I have your email address. I'll communicate with you directly to make arrangements for getting an Amazon gift card to you. And there we have it. So unless there's any final questions, I see 2 things in the chat here. Let me check. She's Flemish born from Belgium. I was close. Maybe I was close in proximity, Anne-Marie. Oh, and then because the last person was a customer of mine, Liz is teasing me. She's saying, oh, I'm customer shenanigans. But I promise you it was a random scroll of the attendee bar. So thank you, everyone, for attending today. We hope you found value in this. And as I said, in one of the post-event communications, there'll be a survey form where if there's any question you think of after the fact or you want to connect with one of these great panelists to learn more about any of the topics they covered, let us know and we will get you connected. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.